Violinist.com. I'm Laurie Niles, founder of Violinist.com.
And I'm Gil Shaham. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this summer Sunday. Laurie, happy 5th of July.
Happy 5th of July. Straight back at you. I didn't see a lot of fireworks last night. Kind of heard them. But we've got some fireworks for you guys today on Gilharmonic. And just a reminder, Gilharmonic is open to all. You do not have to audition. You do not have to have read a biography of Beethoven. We're here just to enjoy music and to talk about it and have some fun.
This is the happiest hour of violin on the web. Laurie, I'm looking forward to this hour. This week we have a cross-generational hour. We have 10-year-old Claire Lee joining us from Connecticut, and she's already well on her way to mastering her instrument. We have the great pedagogue Kurt Sassmannshaus joining us from Cincinnati. In his capable hands, many pros have honed their craft. And we have joining us from England, from the UK, from across the pond, we've got Roberts Balanas, who's 25 years old, and he's always pushing the envelope and breaking musical boundaries. Many of you have seen his viral video of Elton John's
So cool.
I'm Still Standing. And so, yeah, we're very lucky to have him. It's going to be awesome. And he will be premiering a new arrangement right here of I believe, a song by an Australian band, something like AC/DC, Back in Black.
It's going to be so fun. And you know, everyone, Kurt Sassmannshaus has been on the internet longer than most of us. He founded violinmasterclass.com back in 2004, almost as old as Violinist.com, 1996. Oh my goodness. Anyway, Kurt also has been teaching online for many, many years. And he's been so successful with it. So we're going to try to get him to tell us how he does it.
It's going to be a fascinating conversation. And also with Roberts, maybe we can convince him to demonstrate some of his secrets.
Yes, we're going to make him do it. Anyway, so if you are watching us live, please tell your friends. If you're watching on Facebook, start a watch party maybe. And then if you want to ask us a question, please just type it into the chat in either Facebook or YouTube.
Okay, well, let's get started.
She's from Farmington, Connecticut, and she's 10 years old. She's a student of Christie Felsing. And in the last year, she's been in the Westwood School Orchestra. She's been in the Hart Suzuki Program's Intermezzo Orchestra. And she also was chosen for the Suzuki Youth Orchestra of the Americas, which was going to play at the Suzuki Association of the Americas conference, which got canceled, unfortunately. Anyway, we are so happy to have her here with us. And she's going to play for us the Gavotte by Rameau. Well done.
So good. So good, Claire. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that. You have a beautiful sound, Claire. Oh, I loved your vibrato. There you are. Hey. I really enjoyed that. You have a beautiful sound. I enjoyed your vibrato. I love what you're doing with your bow too. It seems like you're really planning out your bow. Great up bow staccato. And I have to say, you have a beautiful feel for this piece. I didn't know this piece before. I loved hearing it. Claire, do you ever Google?
Yes.
Yeah. She's laughing at me. I didn't know how to Google until, maybe 10 years ago. But I have to say, when I heard that you were going to play this piece, I really loved it. I was a little obsessed with it because it's so beautiful. And I just Googled it. Laurie, like when we were kids, what would we have to do?
Yeah, we'd have to go to the library or something like that,
We would have to leave the house.
Look it up in a book.
And then the library might not have that book,
Yeah.
And what you guys have now is amazing. I mean, you're already much smarter than we are, and you already know much more. But by the time they reach our age, they will have left us in the dust, Laurie. Anyway, I did like 20 minutes of Googling of the piece that you played. And that's a whole universe there. It's a whole world that opens up. And it's actually taken from what's called an opera ballet by Rameau, the great composer Rameau, who was writing to words by Voltaire, the very famous writer. And it's called The Temple of Glory. Not the Temple of Laurie, the Temple of Glory. And these pieces are played actually in the happy part when Emperor Trajan, nobody else gets to go into the Temple of Glory, but Emperor Trajan was a good guy.
And he gets to dance, doesn't he? Or does he? I don't know.
I'm not sure who does the dancing, but here we are. We're talking with Claire Lee, everybody, and she was telling us how she went to the Nutcracker in New York. And she's actually playing a piece for us from a different ballet. I guess this is an opera ballet. And, it's very interesting because like in the Nutcracker, some of the music tells the story, right? Like the violin solo, I think the Christmas tree grows or something. But like the overture doesn't tell the story. Or when you have the dance of the sugar plum fairies, everybody's just sitting and enjoying the dance and the music. The story isn't being told. And that's a similar thing that happens with these gavottes. Do you know about gavottes, Claire?
Yes.
What do you know about gavottes?
Well, they're a type of dance.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of dance?
Well, when I imagine Rameau Gavotte, I imagine like there's this grand hall and there's people in a line dancing together.
I think that's great. That's exactly right. They call it a gallant dance. I don't know what it means, but they call it a gallantry. I think it's, a dance of the court, I do want to say to everybody out there, please, if you're interested at all, Google all your pieces. What we have at our fingertips these days is amazing. And so when I Googled this piece, I found the performance by a dear friend of mine, Nick McGeegan. And it was interesting, the gavottes, are played on an oboe and the orchestra, and they play them very fast. It's kind of like, something like,
I feel like I can dance to that.
It's very fast and it's very lively. And I don't know.
Claire, what do you think? Do you think you could play it that fast? Do you want to try just for fun? Just like go for it. I have an idea.
Nailed it.
Can you make those instead of like that beautiful smooth bow that you're doing? Could you make it like bump, bump? All right. It's a different feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes, and the thing is, you can play it however you want to, or however your teacher wants you to, but it's just something to help you feel it as a dance.
Thank you so much for joining us. Claire, before we go, do you have any questions for Laurie or for myself?
Do you have any secrets to produce a beautiful tone?
Wow. Laurie, you want to take this one?
No, I think you should. Well, first, have a really nice violin. I mean, I know that sounds kind of weird, but like, it's true that when you can get good sounding violins that are fractional size violins, for kids, they're not all created equal. And sometimes any problems with tone, sometimes it is the violin. And I feel like you don't have a problem with tone, really. I feel like that's something you're doing really well. Suzuki said, beautiful tone, beautiful heart. So there you go. And, you're producing the tone really well. I would say, though, get that vibrato going, because that propels the tone. It's actually part of the tone is the vibrato. So start connecting your vibrato with the tone. And I think you'll really like what you find there.
I do think you're so well on your way, and you do have a beautiful tone, and it's obvious that you're listening for it, and that's half of it. You know what you're looking for. And secrets, I don't know, you just go slowly, stroke by stroke, note by note, decide how you want to hear it and aim for it. When you play as in tune as you do, like I loved when you had the open D and then you move to the G string on the other D. It's exactly matched. That's very beautiful. That helps the resonance of the instrument. That helps the tone. You want to make sure to always have enough bow. And I think vibrato is also a big part of it. How was that, Laurie? Did I cover enough in 20 seconds about tone?
Well, thank you for joining us, Claire. It was great to hear you play.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our next guest is one of the great master teachers. Kurt Sassmannshaus is professor of violin at the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music. I met Kurt when I was 10 years old. And although I never formally studied with him, I learned much from him back then, and I still learn much from him today. He founded violinmasterclass.com, and today he's joined by his student, Christina Nam, and they will play the first of Wieniawski's Etude Caprice.
Wow. Thank
Great.
you so much, Kurt Sassmannshaus and Christina Nahm. That was just beautiful playing. You play so beautifully together. And you know what it makes me think about is how wonderful it is to play duets with students, and how there's something that you can convey when you're playing together that you can't even really convey in words. So that was wonderful. And also something that people might not realize, because Kurt does so much, is that he's written very many books, these gorgeous Sassmannshaus method books that are based on his father Egon Sassmannshaus's work, and most recently a recital album that's all duets, and it's playable by very young, beginning students. And I realized that wasn't always the case when it came to methods for children. Like, they would start really easy and then suddenly get really difficult. So tell us a little bit about that, Kurt.
Well, the history of violin methods is quite interesting. I mean, you can go back to Leopold Mozart, who mostly talks about music, ornaments, and the craft of just knowing music and how to make music, and doesn't talk about the instrument much at all. And the same with Quantz, with the flute method. And this is, you're talking 1750 or so. In the 19th century, violin methods often existed almost entirely of duos. The Spohr violin method, which has many volumes, has almost only duos that he composed himself. He must have been very prolific as a composer to write all of these duos with certain technical ideas in mind, but it's beautiful music, very short pieces. I find playing with students, besides that it's fun for the teacher, for the student, for the families, always sounds better in a recital than solo violin. But I find that the student picks up a lot of things that have to do with the nonverbal communication, which is so important when we play music. When we play chamber music, catching a cue or knowing, oh, he's going to make a retard, or oh, she wants to go faster. That nonverbal communication starts being trained right away and subconsciously. The students don't know that, but it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I want to ask you also about the verbal communication. I want to also thank Christina Nam again, because I have also been lucky enough to hear her perform the Tchaikovsky concerto, and she is a first-rate violinist, like many students of yours, Kurt. And I think it's a reflection on the teacher as well as on the students.
For sure.
I remember, of course. I remember being maybe 10 years old and being in Aspen, maybe a little bit older, 11 or 12. And I wasn't really studying with you, but I was struggling with Ravel Tzigan. And I was, that part with the harmonics and the string crossings. And I asked you, oh, maybe you have some advice. I can't get this to work. They're not speaking. And I think you said something, you may have said something like, well, maybe more faster bow or closer to the bridge. But I still wasn't getting it. It still wasn't working. And then I'll never forget the way you said to me, you said, well, I'm confident that you'll get it. You'll keep at it. You'll get it, And there was something about the way you said it, which was so encouraging. And I want to ask you about, because you're so experienced with talking to older students, college students, but also the pre-college students.
Well, I knew that you would get it.
I'm not trying. I have to try it again.
But I feel that the encouragement that to show something to a student and do that with an attitude, look here, if you do these steps, this will work. The important thing is not to leave out any steps and then expect them to be there.
Right.
That's of course a mistake, and that's when the student and the teacher get frustrated. But if you go step by step and you make sure, and sometimes I ask, we've done this, right? Because I could forget. Sometimes the student is lacking some detail in the previous information, and you give it to them. But all of that can be done with encouragement. And we've both been lucky enough to study with Dorothy DeLay, who believed that very, very firmly, and basically believed that you can teach somebody only showing them the right way to do it and encouraging them to do it and leaving out the part that was bad. And to do that, no teaching takes place and no learning takes place. So just show them how to do it right.
I think, Laurie, you said something about a mistake is just information, right?
Right. Mistakes are just information. And so use that information. Don't beat yourself up. Don't beat your students up, but just use that information for the next step.
Yeah. I was so impressed. One of my sons worked for some time in Northern California and in Silicon Valley. And the way that the culture in those businesses celebrates failure, they are grateful for it because it saves them time. And actually, they threw an office party because something didn't work. And they figured it out right away. And
fantastic.
So time and money.
It's a good attitude.
It's a remarkable attitude. And of course, we don't celebrate mistakes too much, but you can avoid, by just being encouraging, you can avoid a lot of frustration on the student's part. And that's important because it's hard to learn to play the violin. and they need to be encouraged, and hopefully it works.
Well, and speaking of, how hard it is to play the violin and teach the violin, these days I'm feeling like it's even harder because while, Kurt, you have been teaching on the internet for maybe 16 years now, I've been teaching on the internet for about 4 months when it comes to teaching private one-on-one students. And it's, it can be very discouraging and difficult. And I kind of wondered, since you have that experience, if you have any advice for teachers and for students who are finding themselves, kind of thrust into this new situation that they didn't really choose,
Yeah. Well, nothing more than what you can read online if you do a Google search on internet teaching. But things that are important would be use a computer, don't use a phone.
Yes.
If possible, plug the computer into your internet connection. You'll get a safer connection.
Ethernet kind of thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
and Ethernet cable, right? And it happens. It is a question of the weakest link. So if both of them have fiber optic capabilities, then probably the connection is pretty smooth. If one of them doesn't, it depends on where people are. And it also depends on the time of day, or even on the day. And I've had some situations where I said, you know what, we're redialing every 2 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
Let's try to meet tomorrow or today at a different time, and then it usually works out.
Yeah.
One other thing is that with any software, it's helpful to go into the preferences, take out things like the automatic recording level, because when the microphone hears something loud, it closes in. And when it hears something soft, it opens up. And then everything sounds like what I call mezzo fortissimo. And you can't, as a teacher, you can't hear whether the student is trying to do any dynamics or not. You can maybe see it from the bow, but
Yeah.
Well, you've always been on the cutting edge. So in 2004 and now too. When you look into the future for the next few years, how do you see things changing?
Oh, I wish I had that crystal ball.
Right.
What I do believe, though, is this crisis of the coronavirus, where we now teach university curriculums online.
Yeah.
I think it will do two things. It will make online teaching more acceptable, and people will have more experience with it. And I think it will also lead to new technologies. And some of the things that are being invented, like the Gilharmonic show, are widely accepted, and they will stay. So I think it will propel the use of the internet for online teaching. I think that will be that will have a consequence.
Well, the way you've embraced it and succeeded in using the technology gives me a lot of hope. I mean, it just helps me right now during this current time to know that it's possible to be successful with it. So thank you, Kurt, for everything you've done.
Thank you for being with us today and encouraging all of us.
It's great fun, Laura. It's great to see you, and Gil, it's always good to see old friends.
Our next guest is a 25-year-old who studied with Rodney Friend at the London Royal Academy of Music. I first heard Roberts Balanas playing an arrangement of Elton John's I'm Still Standing and loved it. You should all check it out. You should check out his channel. It is amazing. We're very lucky to have him today. And we will be playing his internet premiere of an arrangement of the AC/DC song Back in Black. Roberts Balanas, everybody. Yes.
Yeah. You know, I have been playing the violin for a really long time, and I did not know that you could do that with a violin. I mean, Roberts, that was amazing. And I mean, it looks to me like you have to pull out all your solo Bach technique, all your Paganini technique. I mean, this is so incredible. So I'm wondering, you know, Back in Black does not immediately strike me as like something to play on acoustic violin. So what made you pick that, and like how, like what were kind of the challenges to, you know, to making that work on the violin?
Well, hello, first of all, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. And yeah, that song, I don't know, for some reason I just thought it would be effective, although it doesn't really have a melody that I could play, or you know, so transcribing it was a nightmare to actually try and pinpoint what's going on and stuff. But yeah, I kind of played around with the pits and all the different scratching and sort of playing unison a lot of the time to make it work and to try and get the character.
Yeah.
I gotta say, firstly, I think you're an excellent violinist. There's no question. You're a first-rate violinist. But the transcriptions are so brilliant. You know, I feel like it must be such a challenge to do these things. I feel like what you're doing is very minimalist. You're taking like a whole rock and roll arena, you know, with screaming fans and the band and amps and speakers, and you're putting it all on one violin acoustically in your room.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the fun of it, I think, because you really have to decide, what am I going to keep? What am I going to do here? Because some songs just don't want to be arranged for solo instrument. And so sometimes I've had to resort to completely crazy techniques of detuning the violin, or taking the bow apart, or just scratching. And yeah, a lot of that, lots of left-hand pits. So my pinky is not really enjoying that, but yeah, it gets used to it.
Did you ever meet a song that you couldn't arrange?
There's no song that I tried to arrange and that didn't work, but there's many songs that I heard and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that, because either sometimes it's all about the lyrics, or you know, there's some songs that you just can't do, or if they're very slow and there's lots happening, so it's very tricky then.
There's something very instructive about your attitude, because I think if I looked at you know, maybe that Elton John song, I would have maybe figured out the first bar, and then the second bar I would say, well, you know what, it's not going to work on violin. But what you're saying is it's fun and you enjoy the challenge. Exactly. And you're so innovative. And you know, we were listening to your transcriptions, and you know, we thought at first, is he overdubbing? Is there like a loop going on? But no, you do it all in one, and it's like there's very beautiful, amazing.
Yeah, but that's also part of it when I recorded, because I put so much care into making it work on solo violin. I really want it to be just one take, nothing added, nothing edited. So it's as if it was a concert. And especially these days now, we can't do any concerts. It's actually, I think, nice to have a performance that is just entirely unscripted and just what it is.
Yeah. You know, I'm really curious about how this all came to be, because I'm thinking you didn't learn how to do rock and roll violin at the Royal Academy of Music. I mean, I don't know, but like, so how did you get going with this?
Oh yeah, so I mean, I guess it all comes back to my musical beginnings, because they weren't classical. It was sort of me and my sisters and my whole family. We were singing rock and roll when we were, you know, 2, 3, 4 years old already. And it just became our thing. We were singing together in festivals and in big venues and outdoors. And so my earliest memories actually are of singing some kind of semi in tune myself, 3 years old, and lots of people chanting my name, and it's sort of being both scary and exciting. Yeah, and kind of retired from that a bit when I was 6 and went to the music school and started learning violin, and sort of it all came rushing back, I think, about 3-4 years ago. when I got an electric violin, and now when I started making these acoustic arrangements.
And can you tell us a little bit about the reactions you've been getting? I understand that Sir Elton John called you.
Yes, no, that was crazy. I was just pacing around the room when I was on the phone. I was so nervous, but he was so nice and lovely, and yeah, and I'm hoping to meet him as well when it's allowed to have gatherings and to play together. Yeah, it was crazy. He really liked the arrangement.
That's pretty exciting.
And when you're, I've seen some videos of you where you're playing like Coldplay. Am I right? Was that in London?
Yeah. So I've played also on the electric violin in lots of places, and I have a loop pedal that sort of used to be the way I did arrangements. So I could layer down the different voices, and I had a effects pedal so I could play drummy sounds and bass sounds on the violin as well. So yeah, that's kind of all what kicked it off for me. And I realized that it works perfectly well in live performance, but online sometimes people don't have the patience to listen through even like 1 or 2 loops. And so I thought, well, what if I just take my normal violin and just try and make this happen all in without any loops, just acoustically. Yeah.
So did you have a background in composing before this, and sort of like how many of these sort of rock arrangements have you done? Like, give us a overview.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't have a background in composing. But I'm sort of getting into it more now. But I just taught myself how to use Sibelius, and then I studied a bit how to use all kinds of like Logic Pro when I was doing the looping, so I can record everything to a high quality. And yeah, and how many arrangements I've done? It's sort of probably around 30, 40 different songs, but I haven't published all of them. And yeah, so they're coming out one by one.
Yeah. So AC/DC, this is the next one. Do you have any that you're working on that you want to,
Oh, well, I'm still sort of recovering my hands from this one, and yeah, probably next. I'm planning to sort of put out a video a week, so that's sort of the aim. And it might be electric violin or it might be acoustic. So I don't really know, but yeah, that's sort of the plan.
So we're talking to Roberts Balanas right now, and he is. You might know him from his viral arrangement of Elton John's "I'm Still Standing," and I'm just kind of wondering if maybe he could play something else for us today.
All right.
You have something up your sleeve?
I'll play you a little bit, but I can't do this is the Wolfpack arrangement I did a year ago, but I can't do the beginning because I need to take apart the bow, and that will take the whole podcast for me to do.
Thank you for being with us, Roberts.
Oh, great to be here. Thank you so much.
Yay! Awesome. Thank you so much.
It may be interesting for people out there if you demonstrated some of those things. What do you think, Laurie?
I'd love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sort of to like teach people, or to just break it down, kind of.
Yeah, break it down a little for us, because it's just, I mean, we just see you do it and a million things are happening at once. And then like, what exactly are you doing to make that sound like that?
Exactly. Well, I don't know. It sort of starts one by one. The things I just, let's take, should we take this one that I just played?
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
So, I mean, it's just a simple melody. And then to fill the gaps, you can add. Sort of, it's difficult to teach us, but yeah, in the short time. So just a lot of pinky work.
Roberts, do you actually have 7 fingers, or really?
No, but what helps really for the pinky and the fat fingers, so you can strum, it's practicing fifths, and that's something my teacher Rodney Friend is amazing at. And
he has a book on it, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he has a book on it.
And because I played all of these arrangements to him in lessons, and I thought, well, maybe it's not his cup of tea, but he said, oh, I love it. And you know what you could do? You could try this. You could try and practice it, practice your fifths with the pinky as well. So you really get on both strings, and then you can, so you get a bigger, nicer sound. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah,
and I've seen you and I've seen you do like scordatura, where you suddenly tune the peg down for a beat, and then you.
Oh gosh, yeah, that was a nightmare of an arrangement. But yeah, I don't know. It was just a lot of G to F practice. The best, really.
Oh, great.
There's like 12 times I do it in that arrangement, and I had to get it all right, and it somehow happened. But
it's like a ballet dance, really.
Exactly, and there's no reason for me to do this really, but I thought, if I'm on this side already for the pegs,
yeah,
it works.
And I remember seeing you do the thing where you take apart the bow, or you loosen the of the bow.
Exactly. Well, let me quickly get a bow. That can.
I want to see this. I want to see this.
Yes.
Did you know, kids?
Oh gosh.
Kids, don't do this at home.
And yes, you have to be careful. Also, I think what's more dangerous is if you scratch your violin. That's sort of the danger.
Yeah.
So you put it around here and leave some space underneath. And what I find is easier if you have the bow facing the right way still.
Oh.
So, and if you kind of grab it here, and now the intonation all goes out the window, because something in the strings just feels different. So I had to relearn everything for the chords. And I'm still out of tune from the Billie Eilish thing. Yeah, and you can play anything like this. There's an amazing recording of.
I can't play anything like that.
There's an amazing recording of someone playing the national anthem of United States entirely like this, and it's just crazy. Yeah, it's a very fun and useful technique as well. You know?
Wow.
Play four strings.
Just so innovative, so resourceful. You know, and when I've watched your videos, you do it sometimes just for one beat, and then you come back to the next beat, come play normal bow or normal tuning.
Yeah, So in that arrangement, I actually had to speed it up a bit because it wasn't humanly possible. But yeah, that's the yeah. I just try and get to the bottom of what each song is and the meaning of it, and sometimes it just involved this because it wasn't the same if I played those chords or any breaking kind of thing. So it just came about naturally. And
well, Roberts, I think that you have completely succeeded. I think that, you know, every arrangement I've seen has just been, it's really gotten to the heart of what that song was all about.
Well done.
Congratulations on your success with this, and I wish you continued success.
Thank you.
So fun. That was so fun. And you know, Laurie, what I love about Roberts is he is all about the music. And that's really why we're all here. It's just about serving the music and serving our listeners, our audience.
Yeah, figuring out whatever crazy technique works to make it work. And, you know, it was so nice to hear from Kurt as well. I love the way he interacts with students, and then that he's created all this material that allows students and teachers to interact because they can do duets together.
And also little Claire. I mean, Claire, she is a true music lover, and she's well on her way to finding her voice on the violin. And we are also so lucky to have Christina Nam playing for us today.
Absolutely.
This whole community is very special. I feel very lucky to be here. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And you know, I want to thank everybody for being here this week. Join us next week. We're going to have a number of we've got some exciting stuff going on. We've got Hugo Maida from LA. He's 8 years old. He's going to play Bach Preludio. We also have Rabia Brooke from the Chicago area. She's going to play a little excerpt from Prokofiev's Second Concerto. And we also have a really special treat. Gil's got to tell you about that.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I haven't stopped smiling since I found out that
he doesn't stop smiling anyway, but
you know, I heard that Roby Lakatosh will join us, and I'm just so excited. He will be with us with the entire Lakatosh ensemble, and it's going to be amazing. They're going to bring their magic.
And just to answer a question, how do you get involved with Gilharmonic? You can send a video of your playing to LaurieNiles@gmail.com. And also, we don't want you to miss any episodes. So please sign up for subscribe to Violinist.com on YouTube. Also, follow Violinist.com and Gil Shaham on Facebook. Sign up for Violinist.com's newsletter. That should ensure that you don't miss us.
Laurie, I want to do a quick shout out to Robert Niles, our director, for all his amazing work, all the banners, all the new material that we're getting every week, and for his technical coordination of all of this.
Yes, we can't wait to see you guys next week. Thank you for joining us.